Why are smallholder farmers poor? This question is one that is worth considering. Because I remember back then when I told my parents that I wanted to be a farmer. And the question was, out of all the professions in the world, you chose farming. Very funny, right? And I know several of us who also have passion for this industry, especially the young ones, have been asked the same question. But really, I now get the essence or the reason why they were actually asking such questions. This is because, or was because, several smallholder farmers are poor. And those are the people we see as farmers because they are the ones who are in our vicinity. Another question still arises. How come the topic, why are smallholder farmers poor? Why not how to farm snails? Or how to farm pigs? Or how to improve your pig health? Or the rest of the normal topics of the podcast that GAC Concept is used or known for? Now, we've realized that it's very important to address certain issues in this industry prior to teaching. Yes, GAC Concept is all about teaching, training, writing instructional materials for farmers, sales of agricultural produce, which is the least of them, but basically trainings and providing agricultural resource materials. But now, I've come to understand the fact that there are certain problems that need to be tackled for those farmers who we are training, or those intending farmers who we are training to become farmers in this country or in Africa as a whole, to actually thrive and succeed. Now, this topic is one which actually came as a result of the last podcast episode we did. And I think that's how we're going to be running things now because every podcast episode should birth the next. That is a way we can have a constant chain joining all episodes together that makes it possible for everyone to understand while listening or following the podcast episode. So, it's going to be a long chain of events that are going to, or that is going to help each and every farmer or an agri enthusiast to know how he or she is supposed to manage his business or thrive in an economy like ours. This is GAC Podcast, and I am Aka Joshua Salvation, the host of the program. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do well to hit on that subscribe button and the notification bell. Do well to hit on the comment section to ask whatever questions you have based on our previous episodes or this episode. So, before we move further, I would like us to listen to Mr. Humbo Samson, whose comments on the last content or last podcast episode birthed this podcast episode. Let's listen.
I think anyone who has seriously considered the contribution of small scale farmers to the global food security would not scorn the idea of farming, even when you are not very rich. Small scale farmers, people farming, even though they are not very rich, contribute like one third of the total food produce. So it is not a matter of importance. It is not a question of importance. They are very important. Um, but one may be discouraged from going into farming when that person is not very rich because of the fact that a lot of small scale farmers are poor. And this is a very serious issue. This is a issue we need to consider very soberly, and we have to ask ourselves: why are people that contribute so much to feeding the world living in poverty? And I think there are mistakes being made by the society and in some cases by these individuals themselves, and we need to see how we can provide the solutions to it. So this should be the discussion, not the fact that going into farming when you are not rich is bad. That shouldn't be the discussion. The discussion should be how can we help the small scale farmers.
Now, having heard the topic from the horse's mouth, anyways, Mr. Humbo Sampson is a participant of the Lagos Agripreneurship Program for the batch 14 under the Aquacultural Department. So he was previously interviewed here before, and he felt it was nice to actually contribute to the last episode. And furthermore, he did more to contribute to this same episode because he was the one who raised the question. So I had to inform him, you have to be part of this next episode. So he himself, although we aren't close yet, but he recorded his own part of the podcast episode, and then we're going to be playing it here today. But first, let's ask ourselves this question: why really are smallholder farmers poor? Of course, there are some who actually have managed to get themselves off the shackles of poverty, and I think those ones are the new aged smallholder farmers. I don't really call them smallholder farmers, I call them medium holder farmers because what they're doing is more like medium scale farming. All right, medium scale farming, and most of them are pushing it through the use of social media, the internet, and other advanced means, and some of them are actually employing technology in executing their farm practices, and as such are making more money than those other farmers who have refused to embrace innovation. Is it their fault? Technically not all, but yes, I can say that. Mr. Ngbo Sampson has a lot more to tell us about this, and I think he's going to be addressing the issue: why are smallholder farmers poor? In the next I wouldn't say it's up to 16 minutes, I'll say 12 minutes, he's going to be breaking this topic into pieces, stating reasons why smallholder farmers are poor. Let's listen again, please.
It is a sad fact that most smallholder farmers playing key role in the global food security are in poverty themselves. It is disheartening, but that's just the reality of the world that we live in. We ask questions such as why are smallholder farmers poor? Because agriculture, aside from satisfying our nutritional need, is also expected to act as an economic lever that lifts farmers and agriculturalists out of poverty. In some cases, it satisfies both the nutritional needs and economic needs, but in some cases, it satisfies just one, and in some cases, it satisfies neither. So, um, yeah, agriculture is an economic process, and when a farmer exists in a society where several factors converge to perpetuate the existence of an underperforming economic agricultural model, then it's be very difficult for that farmer to rise out of poverty. So, um, when I said economic model, I'm using the term in a very loose sense, and economic model in this case would include all variables that act together to influence the output and earning of that farmer. So we can go a step further and ask the questions: what factors could act together to keep a small older farmer from achieving uh, wealth, or some from, from or rising up the economic ladder? So, well, I will start by dissecting the attitude, behavior, and rationale of a smallholder farmer first. So, one thing that affects negatively the career and economic progress of a smallholder farmer is the fact that they are too risk averse. When a farmer's economic capacity to pay for his child's education, to provide for his or her family, depends solely on if the next harvest is good or bad, then such farmer is in a position where he has to proceed as cautious as possible. Try new things may seem too risky for such farmer. So a farmer like that, when you present him with new seed that has a great capacity for high yield, adopting to new method of adapting new method of farming, new system and seed may seem too risky for such farmer, because if anything goes wrong, a lot of things is at stake. So when you come at him with a new piece of technology and tell him, please integrate this into your farming system, well, to him you may be asking for the impossible, because you will be thinking, won't this cost be greater than my usual system? Will that cost, extra cost, translate to more yield? So because of certain constraints around um, that farmer, he won't be able to innovate or adapt to new system, because he is not in a position to even try new things. So, and it is not difficult to imagine what this would lead to: a situation whereby he would be below the poverty line in perpetuity, because he is not willing to go a step further and try and bring in new things into his system that would increase his yield. So that's the attitude and behavior of farmers to new to innovations and new system is one of the reasons why is one of the reasons why smallholder farmers find it difficult to move up the economic ladder, and things would have been a bit easier for them if their social safety net and insurances that are friendly to the economic situation of these farmers. With that in place, they can take more risk, and even extension services. If more extension service personnel link up with more of these smallholder farmers, they can gain the knowledge required to implement new systems. So when they feel comfortable enough with the theoretical aspect of that system, at some point they may go into it. But all these things militate against an innovative smallholder farmer. But the behavior and decision making of smallholder farmers represent just a very tiny percentage of what the problem is. The greater issues lies in the fact that there's such a wide gap between the agencies and people looking to help the farmers, looking to pass across useful information to the farmers and the farmers themselves. They don't have access to quality inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, and the likes. They don't have access to production inputs, equipment, credit facilities. The extension service personnel and trainers don't get to them. And most agricultural development programs have this one size fits all approach whereby they have a grand plan and they will try to impose it on every locality. It doesn't matter the unique and peculiar needs of these people. So this again is one of the problems smallholder farmers have, and when these agencies brings in new uh, system to them, it doesn't work because it is not tailored to their needs. Um, you can imagine subsidizing, bringing in tractors at a subsidized rate to a community of farmers where land is their major issue. They don't have enough land to even to introduce machineries. So such attempts to help would result in a total waste of everyone's time. Another thing that hurts smallholder farmers is the lack of access to market. I have heard stories of people's harvest getting rot because the person that promised to buy those produce from that farmer did not turn up. So when that happens, the farmer could not get another customer to take the goods off him in time, and the help got rotten. So this is a common problem, and this is one of the issues smallholder farmers have. Um, and also fluctuation of prices. These farmers, they have no authority, they have no control over the price. Imagine a farmer buying his input when the cost is very high, processing it, planting them, processing them, and when he wants to sell them, the price is at an all-time low. It will be very difficult for such farmer not to run into debt. And same goes for the livestock farmers. And so sometimes the fluctuation in prices is not very friendly, and it falls below their production cost, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of smallholder farmers are poor. And I would implore the big organizations and big companies that makes use of agricultural produce in their production to key in um, smallholder farmers into their value chain. It would really improve the economy, to improve the lives of the smallholder farmers too. And the government should plan and expose farmers on the export potentials, because smallholder farmers don't usually tap into the global market. This is a field dominated by the big guys in the industry. So the government should encourage the smallholder farmers to try and look towards exporting their goods, and the government should make um, policies that is international trade friendly too. That would really go a long way. Then there is the issue of lack of infrastructure, lack of good roads, um, poor power supply, and lack of processing units, processing facilities. The lack of processing facilities really worrisome uh, situation where a lot of goods post harvest get spoiled because there are no processing enough processing facilities to meet the production to meet the production rate, and lack of storage systems too. Another thing that hurts small scale farmer is climate change, and it's really terrible because we don't have detailed knowledge on how climate change is affecting different communities of farmers. Because the one thing that we know is climate change interaction with agriculture is different across space and time. So, and again, we can't use a one size fits all approach to combat climate change. We can't use it to mitigate its effect on agriculture. And when developing climate resilient practices, we have to have location specific info, and this is sorely lacking. So more money should be pumped into the research by the government, and would all be better for it. That is, if the result of this research are communicated to the smallholder farmers, and adaptation of modern technology should be encouraged and subsidized. So these are some of the issues that I think affect the small scale farmers. And
Thank you so much, Mr. Humbu Samson, for your time. 12 minutes is not a small time. Yeah. For those of you who have listened to this point, I want to say kudos to you all. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we've gained a lot from it. We've gained a lot. And part of the problems he has mentioned is fear of taking risk. I know before or earlier in this podcast I mentioned that part of this can actually be the fault, or part of the fact that smallholder farmers are poor is a fault. Yes, a little bit, but not all, because they actually face a lot of problems, which I've actually come to realize from the contributions by Mr. Sampson. And the fear of taking risk, I can't say it's not justified. It's justified because no human being is not afraid of losing his money. But when they're actually properly educated on the reasons for taking new measures, of course, they will. That is the work or the job for extension service providers or extensionists to actually go forward to educate these farmers on what are the modern measures they can actually take to help improve their production um, means, and what ways can they actually improve profit or increase profit through practicing those modern measures. Now, there is no way you'll be convinced by someone that you wouldn't want to take action. So if we have extension servicemen or extension service providers who go about to educate the smallholder farmers on measures, modern measures they can actually take, innovative measures they can actually take to help them improve their production and marketing, then obviously they would love to take that risk. He talked about price fluctuation. That is another thing that is killing several small scale farmers, which I know of. I know that a lot, and I've actually seen where such things cause the downfall of several farmers. Imagine you're buying an input for a very high price, and later on, when your produce is ready to be sold to the market, the price of the product is very, very low. Now you lack storage facility. You lack adequate market that can actually meet up to the price that you would want to sell your produce. Then obviously they are left to selling it off at the price they see in the market, which actually is not even up to their cost of production, leaving them to run into debt. So that is something else I learned, and we have lack of assistance by agencies, which was one other thing he explained. Then lack of access to quality input, equipment, and credit facility. Yes, most of the times these quality inputs are given to grown farmers, those large scale commercial farmers. Input credit facilities are made available for those farmers because people believe that they are the ones making money and they are the ones who can pay back credit or loans when they are collected. But basically, have we tried out lending this helping hands to all smallholder farmers to see what they can actually do with it? Now, not just giving them this money, also supplying them. It might even be that the credit might be in form of inputs, quality inputs that they can actually use. Give them the input, educate them on how to use it, monitor and mentor them to getting profit from their first batch of production. And after that, trust me, they would scale it up from there. So a lot of them are going through issues, and that's what the image that these issues have painted in the front of people that smallholder farmers are poor. Then we have lack of markets and storage facility. This is also another issue. You know, agricultural produce are highly perishable, and as stores, their marketing is highly important. Now, it's very frustrating when you know your products are in the farm, they are mature, and nobody is coming to buy them off. Okay, and most of these people do not have processing facilities nor storage facilities, which are made available for them to actually keep their produce until the time they get buyers. And that is one of the major reasons why I always encourage farmers. Before you start, please don't make the mistake that other farmers have made. Get your market, have a steady market that you can actually, and have alternative market. In as much as you have a steady market, have alternative markets. Should in case something happens to the first market, what can you actually, or where can you actually run to as an alternative to sell or disburse your product? Okay, that is a lot we've learned from Mr. Hungo Samson. Let's not make this so cumbersome for people to listen. I know we have a busy schedule at hand. Everyone has one thing or the other doing. So thank you so much for listening. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit on that red subscribe button. Hit on the notification bell, the like button, and finally, comment on this podcast episode. What do you actually think? Do you think Mr. Humbo Samson is right? And what do you learn from what you've heard from him? If possible, share to other farmers or other youth out there who believe that agriculture or smallholder farmers are poor, so they can actually see what problems they're facing and see if they can actually join hands to provide solutions to these problems. It shouldn't be left just to the government. We have one or the other skills in us that can actually play a part in us assisting these farmers. Thank you so much once again. I'm Aka Joshua Salvation, and this is GAC podcast. I want to say concept, sorry. This is GAC podcast, and enjoy the rest of your day.